Chiefs Travis Kelce is not done, and a revenge tour is coming, and I'm going to talk about it. Good morning, Chiefs Kingdom. Thanks for joining me this morning on a beautiful Friday, February 21st. It's my daughter's 16th birthday today, so shout out Maddie, happy birthday. I'm old, officially. I turned 40 a couple weeks ago, and now my daughter's 16, so I'm feeling a little old. So you guys cheer me up in the comments or something. But appreciate you guys being here. Do me a favor, hit the like button, help this get out to more people. And this live stream is powered by BetUS. Head over to betus.com and check out what they have going on. Right now, if you use the code YouTube150, you get a 150% deposit bonus match on your first deposit. And then on the next two, you get 125%. These are up to $2,000. So take advantage of all the free plays you can make with those deposit matches. The site's easy to use and there's plenty of props on there too. So go to betus.com and use the promo code YouTube150 to let them know All Chiefed Up sent you. Yeah, so a little bit to unravel this morning. Not a whole lot going on. It's officially the offseason in NFL. And you know that because hockey has taken the world by storm. That's all you saw on X yesterday was people talking about hockey. Even Chiefs fans, football fans everywhere. Not anything about the Chiefs. Not anything about football. We're talking about hockey. So you know it's the offseason. But Canada snuck one out on us. I saw that happen. Didn't watch the game, but saw some highlights. But, you know, it wouldn't be an NFL offseason if Chiefs fans weren't talking about Mr. DK Metcalf. NFL Rumors puts out on X and says Kansas City Chiefs are expected to check availability on Seattle Seahawks DK Metcalf. We've heard this one before, haven't we, folks? What are we thinking about it? We already had to talk about Kyle Pitts on the last live stream. That's a popular one amongst Chiefs Kingdom every offseason. And now we're talking about DK Metcalf. And you know, I think the DK Metcalf thing comes from a little bit of PTSD from not drafting him and drafting Mecole Hardman. Don't want to shade Mecole Hardman too hard, but that was a little lopsided there. I would think that we would have liked to have had DK Metcalf. And I think Brett Veach even said that was his biggest mistake as a GM, or that's the one that haunted him, was not drafting DK. So we do know that Brett Veach has interest in him. And they think that he's a good player and would be a good fit in Kansas City. We've heard all this. DK Metcalf, on the other hand, he's been out there, and of course it probably was to pander to the Seattle Seahawks fan base, but he said he wasn't interested in going to Kansas City, that the weather sucked, which is weird coming from somebody up in Seattle where it rains all the time. So don't know. I like DK Metcalf. I think he's a great player. Would he fit into our offense? I'm not for sure. I would like to think so. Super fast guy, big guy. He can do a lot of things. But we've kind of proven in Kansas City that we don't really use the big X receivers that often. I mean, we went and got D-Hop. Sorry, not DK Hop, but D-Hop. We went and got him halfway through the season last year. Didn't exactly utilize him the way I thought he could have been. Not a whole lot of snaps. At first, it started to pick up. They only used him sparingly. I mean, he made some great catches. He also had a couple of key drops, but just not exactly the way you think they would use a guy like that. And do you think they're going to use anyone, you know, in a high volume going forward that's a big-bodied wide receiver? I'm not for sure. DK is a little bit different, though. He's got a lot of speed and does a lot of things differently than a lot of these big X wide receivers do. So it could definitely be something to think about and something I'm sure Brett Veach is going to kick the tires on. But we have this report here from Chiefs Wire. It says the Kansas City Chiefs will have many decisions regarding the wide receiver room this offseason. Multiple veteran players are free agents, like DK Metcalf. And general manager Brett Veach assigned several receivers to reserve and future contracts, including Jason Brownlee. This is what the Chiefs have done so far since the Super Bowl. They signed Chris Oladokun. They've signed defensive back Deion Bush, wide receiver Justin Ross, and wide receiver Tyquan Thornton. So no surprises there. No surprises. Future reserve contracts. Man, Justin Ross. I wonder if it's going to be another offseason, another training camp of talking about Justin Ross. Do you think? I'm not real sure if if we're over it yet. I'm not real sure if the fan base is over it. Y'all have to let me know if you guys think there's still a possibility that Justin Ross is going to do something here in Kansas City. Yeah, Sam, I see where you're saying that they're not going to pay DK Metcalf $31 million a year. And that was kind of my next point. If we go back to DK Metcalf, and if the Chiefs could get him, do you really think they're going to pay a receiver $30+ million a year? I just don't think so. I don't think that's in the Chiefs' DNA. We seen them let Tyreek Hill walk for much less. Of course, he ended up getting the $30 million, but I mean, I think we only offered $24-25 million a year, maybe, if we wanted to keep him. That was kind of where it was at. I don't see the Chiefs going out and paying anyone a big bunch of money if they weren't going to pay Tyreek Hill. I mean, he fit into the offense better than most. And then I think that we've actually hit a home run on a couple of receivers in the last couple of drafts with Rashee Rice, who is an absolute beast on the field. We'll see how he recovers from that knee injury, because that's, I guess, a little concerning. But most guys bounce back pretty well. And then he's got that lingering suspension. But also knocked it out of the park by trading up and getting Xavier Worthy. A lot of people weren't so sure about him. Thought it might be just one of those things where he's really fast, but maybe too small and not a complete player. But he is a complete wide receiver, and I think we saw that throughout this year. He got better and better and better. And then in the playoffs, he was killer. He was great in the Super Bowl. One of the only bright spots in the Super Bowl. But, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs, they have some work to do. A lot of free agents, a lot we've talked about on the last live stream. Most notably, going to be Trey Smith. And they're, I'm not sure they're going to be able to get Trey Smith back. He's going to cost a lot. He's earned himself a big-time contract. And whether that's with the Chiefs or with another team, it's yet to be seen. But I don't see the Chiefs being able to pay Trey Smith the amount of money that he's earned. And then you've got players out there now, as in other teams, that are looking for a guy like Trey Smith. I mean, we saw Zach Martin retire from football yesterday, so Dallas could be in that mix as well. A lot of people are going to be after Trey Smith, and rightfully so. So we'll see how that pans out. One thing that helps Kansas City with signing some of these free agents, re-signing some of our own players, is the fact that the salary cap has gone up again, and a little bit more than they expected. Ari Myrov reported the NFL informed teams today, which was yesterday, that the 2025 salary cap will be roughly $277.5 million to $281.5 million per Dan Graziano. That's an increase of $22.1 to $26.1 million from last year, and beats what most executives were anticipating. So good little pay increase there, or should I say an increase of what we can spend. And of course the Chiefs, I think they only have like $7 million in cap space right now. And, that prompts a lot of people to go out, a lot of Chiefs haters. I think there was one in particular Bills fan that people like to make fun of on X, who had made a whole video about how the Chiefs are broke and no one's talking about it. Well, buddy, I hate to tell you this, but we were negative salary cap at one point a couple years back and still managed to get everything done and go win a Super Bowl. We have guys that can restructure. There's other ways of finagling stuff, and Brett Veach will do so, and I think we'll be just fine on the salary cap, especially with that increase of 21 to 26 million. So that's huge. That's huge, and I'm sure a lot of teams are going to take advantage of it, and the Chiefs might as well. You guys let me know in the comments who you're kind of thinking about early as far as free agency goes. So we're going to get into free agency. We're going to get into draft stuff here soon. Mike's still on vacation. Once he gets back, I'm sure we're going to deep dive into the draft and to free agency and have a lot of content for you guys. I've just been trying to man it for this week, hold it down, talk about the non-news that's out there. I mean, it's non-news when people's talking about hockey. I'll repeat that one more time. That there's no news out there in Chiefs Kingdom. There's a couple of little things here. One being that they had the Chiefs player voted awards, and they gave the Derek Thomas MVP award to Joe Thuney. It's his definition of a team player. Shout out Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney caught a lot of heat after the Super Bowl, after the offensive line didn't perform up to par. Got a lot of heat. Joe Tooney slid over to left tackle about 6 weeks ago and absolutely killed it. He blanked some of the best pass rushers in the league, and he did very, very well in the playoffs up until the Super Bowl. And we've talked about this time and time again, but I don't think it was strictly just because the offensive line was, below par in ability. I think it was more of the position that they were put in. I think it was a terrible scheme by Andy Reid, terrible game plan, not establishing a run game. There's a million other things that this team could have done to prevent that from happening. And I think that Joe Tooney was excellent this year, and I think that sticking with that decision was not the wrong decision by Andy Reid. I think the game plan was, and I think the way that they attacked the Eagles defense, or lack thereof attack, is what made that happen. But I think the players showed their support, and I think it shows you how important Joe Tooney was to the team this year that they voted him as the MVP. And then, of course, Rookie of the Year award went to Xavier Worthy. No doubter there. Xavier Worthy had an excellent year. I mean, he was pretty close to what Rashee Rice was able to accomplish last year. Like I was saying earlier, that's two very, very promising wide receivers this Chiefs team have, and they're both extremely young, and that's awesome, man. We're going to need this stuff going forward as this team kind of, goes into its next season or its next chapter, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we're in the midst of a dynasty. We're in the midst of a career of a quarterback that it's potentially the best quarterback to ever play football. And I think we see some pages turning. So we need these young guys. We need Brett Veach to keep drafting well, and we need the coaching staff to keep developing them. And I saw your rant in the chat, Sam, about Andy Reid and his play calling and everything like that in the Super Bowl. And 100% agree with you. Andy Reid's the greatest coach in football, but he definitely has some flaws, and one of them reared its ugly head in the Super Bowl. And that's the fact that Andy Reid just absolutely hates to run the ball. I mean, he always has. We saw this team throughout the year look like a team that was going to rely on the run game and the defense. And then they kind of did so all the way up until the Super Bowl and reverted back to that just pass every time they have the ball. And they didn't establish a run. It allowed the Eagles defense to pin their ears back and exploit some of the weaknesses we had in the offensive line. And once you got so far behind, you put yourself behind the 8-ball, and there was nothing you could do about it at that point. So I just wanted to let you know your rant is justified. Huge coaching failure. And it's just extremely disappointing because I firmly believe that this Chiefs team was better than that Eagles team. And I know a lot of people would think I'm crazy for saying that because they whooped their ass, right? Well, I just really think this team is better. I think if he had gone out with any other game plan on offense, if they would have went out and established a run game, it would have been a completely different ball game. If they went out and made quick passes, quick slants, screen passes, what have you, it would have been a completely different ball game. They did nothing to stifle that pass rush. Absolutely nothing. And that's what allowed that game to get out of hand. Because honestly, our defense played well in the first half. And even through the second half, they played really well. It's just when you're always on the field and your offense is doing nothing for you, eventually some points are going to get let up, and you're going to get tired, and you're going to get gassed. And then, I mean, your motivation kind of goes downhill once you're down, 30 points in the Super Bowl. It's kind of a bummer. But, yeah, enough of that Super Bowl talk. We're over it now, Sam. We don't have to care no more. It's over. The Eagles got one on us. Congrats. But, you can't win the Super Bowl every damn year. There's a reason why the three-peat's never been done. And there's also a reason why this Chiefs team was the closest team to ever doing it. Because this is one of the best teams ever put out on a football field with the best coach, the best quarterback, best tight end, which I want to talk about right now. So a good little segue for that. Real quick before I get into that, though, appreciate y'all being here. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure to like it, share it with your friends and family. If you're watching on X, repost this out to your followers. If you're watching on YouTube, appreciate if you guys hit that like button. Also, all of you guys, share this channel with your friends and your family. Share it with somebody that likes Chiefs football. Let's keep this bad boy growing. We're going to be going all off-season. You're going to have all your free agency, draft news, everything's going to be right here on this channel. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And watch your boys. Get in the chat. Have some fun. not a whole lot of people in here today. You can kind of see that you're in the depths of the offseason already. And it's totally understandable when you're just a few weeks outside of getting absolutely embarrassed in the Super Bowl. And, the more that I've kind of let that marinate, it's not as depressing as I initially thought. Like, it is disappointing. But, I mean, just to reflect back on what this team's been able to do in the last 7 or 8 years, it's just incredible. And just trying to, linger on one game or let that decide how you feel is just wild to me. And it sucks it was on the biggest stage. I understand. It sucks how it went down. It sucks they didn't put up a fight. It sucks that Andy Reid absolutely had the worst game plan of his entire career. It sucks that Patrick Mahomes played the worst game of his entire career. But that's the funny thing about it. The Eagles players and Eagles fans are going to gloat. The Eagles fans are potentially taking over the worst fan base in football. Like, they're worse than Bengals fans right now. They're worse than Bills fans. They're worse than Raiders fans and Donkeys fans. And that's bad. That's real bad. I wanted to bring this up real quick, and I'll get to the Travis Kelce stuff. But here's just a prime example. PFF released top 101 NFL players from the 2024 season. Number 16 was Trent McDuffie. Shout out to Warden. 68.5% lockdown rate, first in the NFL. So here PFF is shouting out the number one lockdown corner in football, Trent McDuffie. Props, buddy. But if you go in the comments on that, it's literally just flooded with Eagles fans talking about the Super Bowl and belt to ass. And where was that in the Super Bowl? He got owned the whole game. And it's just, they never stop. It's like the little brother that finally won. But usually, I was a little brother, and when I tried to beat Mike at something for years and I couldn't do it, when I finally did, I didn't gloat because I was smart enough to know that he had beat me a lot of other times. And, the sun shines on a dog's ass one time a day, Every once in a while, things go your way, and things went perfectly the Eagles' way in the Super Bowl. Not only did they play a very good game, Chiefs played the worst game they've played. Andy Reid had coaching failures unlike any other in his career. He made it as like the ultimate Andy Reid coaching failure. A lot of the players didn't show up. There was no heart, no fight. Execution was bad. Patrick Mahomes had his worst game. It's crazy that much stuff had to go wrong for the Eagles to win, and here they are just going crazy and gloating. And it's like, have your fun. But be careful, because there could be a revenge tour coming. Kay Adams had Charles O'Menahue on her show, and she said, what's Patrick Mahomes going to be like over the next 10 months? And he simply said, a revenge tour, that he's coming, that Pat's going to go crazy next season. I firmly believe that. Pat's that type of player that lets this kind of stuff really motivate him for the future. We saw it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl. They blew the doors off of the Chiefs. I mean, same fashion. Just couldn't stop them. It's constant pass rush. People up Patrick's ass the whole game. Almost a carbon copy, and I think that's why a lot of Chiefs fans were just like, had PTSD, and it was watching it unfold again was just too much. But if you notice, Pat came back from that and went to 3 straight Super Bowls. So I think that's something to think about. Patrick's not going to let this one get him down all the way. He's going to come back and get his revenge. And what better way to do that than with his sidekick, Travis Kelce? And that's what this episode is kind of about, is it's Travis Kelce's not done. According to Gridiron here, Travis Kelce is leaning towards playing in 2025 per Diana Rossini. And I've seen a lot of reports on this. I think that it makes total sense. I think he definitely is leaning towards playing. I think if you want to retire, I think you kind of know. Like, to me, I think if there's any doubt and you have to take time to think about it and reflect on it and everything, I think that you still want to play. So I think Travis Kelce still has a little bit left to give, and I think he don't want to go out with that sour taste in his mouth. And I think he will be back. And what better way to come back than to be on a revenge tour with Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback of all time? Why wouldn't you want to do that? But talking about Travis Kelce, though, if he decides to come back and not retire, that's great. But we did see what seemed to be a diminished version of Travis Kelce last season. And it's sad that I can say diminished version. He still had almost 1,000 yards receiving. Had some games where he went off, but there was a lot of games where Kelce was very lackluster or not used a lot. Wasn't put up the stats that Chiefs Kingdom's used to watching him put up. But I do think there's still some left there. And it also brings up the question of how are they going to utilize him this next year? Because I think you're getting to a point, he's 35 years old, going to be 36. You have to really think about how you are using this guy. Like, can you keep putting him out there for a majority of the snaps? Do you kind of move on to Noah Gray? Do you go out and try to get a Kyle Pitts? Do you do something like that? Use them the majority of the time, but Travis Kelce's still getting his snaps, I don't know. There's a lot of questions there, but I think Chiefs fans in general are pretty happy that Travis Kelce is leaning towards coming back. Just if nothing else, just the fact that we love the man, and it's sad when some of your favorite players for years are considering retirement or moving on somewhere else. And I think a lot of people's happy that Travis Kelce's leaning towards coming back. Me personally, I am. I think that Travis Kelce has more to offer. I think what he did in the Super Bowl as far as execution, I think what he did in the Super Bowl as far as effort, leadership, a lot of other things, I think it was questionable. And that's not who Travis Kelce has been for years for the Chiefs. That's not who he's been, and I don't think that's the way he wants to go out. So as much as it sucks that we had to watch him go through that and see the fruits of that, I think that it would be nice to see Travis Kelce come back, give it another go around, put in the full effort, focus totally on it, and do the damn thing. And then we also, of course, have Jared Wiley, the rookie from last season. A lot of people were like, bring Jared Wiley up, and they're like, well, the Chiefs couldn't even do anything with Jared Wiley, and he's a huge guy, and he could have been good, and this and that. People are forgetting that he went out with a season-ending injury in practice, a knee injury. So we'll see how he bounces back from that, and we'll also see how the Chiefs utilize him going forward, because, I mean, he's a big body, big guy. He's got good speed, and he catches almost everything they throw to him. So we'll see how they get him involved as well. But the Chiefs definitely could be looking to draft a tight end. They'd also be looking to get one in free agency. Of course, there have been rumors about Kyle Pitts and that they've reached out to Atlanta about his availability and things like that. So we'll see where they go with that whole thing. But it will be nice to have Travis Kelce's face back in the Chiefs uniform. I don't know if people's ready to let it go yet, and I don't think he's ready to let it go yet. That's my main thing. Like I said, I don't think he wants to go out that way after having a full career of being one of the best tight ends to ever do it. I think he's the best. And I know Tony G fans, some of you old heads might come at me for that, but I do think that Travis is the best to ever do it. And I think he's been a great leader for the Chiefs, and I think he should give himself the opportunity to come back and put a little bit more into it than what he was able to give this last season. For whatever reasons, I don't know. A million different things going on that we don't know about, but I don't think that was Travis Kelce's best effort last year. So I think that he could come back and do it the right way before he goes out. Just my personal opinion. Y'all let me know what you all think in the chat. Do you want Travis back? And if he comes back, in what capacity? Y'all let me know. I do have a poll going. If you haven't voted in that poll yet, you should go do that. It just says, do you think Travis Kelce will retire? 73% of you guys think he will not. And I think that's the majority of people in general. Of course, there's 27% of you guys out there, so a quarter of us basically, that think that he is going to go ahead and hang it up. And let's be honest here, with the effort that you saw put up in the Super Bowl and just kind of all season how Travis Kelce his mind seemed to be elsewhere, especially heavily in the previous offseason. We've seen Travis really get into the acting thing. Of course, he done, a TV show. They've been doing a movie. There's also a lot of commercials. Everybody saw the million commercials. He's hosting game shows on TV. Of course, you seen him out at, a bunch of the Taylor Swift shows when she was on tour. There's just a lot that Travis Kelce does outside of football, and it increased heavily this last offseason. And of course, he has his own podcast with his brother, and just a lot of different avenues and different things that Travis Kelce likes to do, likes to explore. And eventually he's going to want time to keep doing those. But I think he loves football still, and I think he'll come back and play at least one more year and just see if they can redeem themselves a little bit after what happened in the Super Bowl. But like I said, just really want to see what you guys think about it. How do you think Travis Kelce is going to be if he does come back? What can he offer the team? What kind of role is he going to play? Is it going to be the same Travis Kelce we've always known? Is it going to be in a lesser role? Just really like to see what you guys think about that, and I'll get to the chat just a little bit if I can here. Chief KT says, I want Kelce to retire if he comes back on that depressing shit again. And that's me, Chief KT. I'm right there with you. Like, I want Travis Kelce here. He's been my favorite player for years and love the man. Think he's the best tight end to ever play. But if you're going to put in the effort that you put in last season, if you're going to look like you're not interested, if you're going to look like your mind's elsewhere and you could care less about the outcome of the football games you're playing in, you're not stepping up and taking that leadership role, completely serious, and you're not just, if your head's not in the game, go ahead and retire. And that's the thing. I really don't think Kelce's head was all the way in the game this last season. So I think he wants to come back and do it the right way. I really do. That's not how you want to go out as one of the greatest players to ever play football. You don't want to go out like that. Ruben says that Trav's still a leader. And I think he is. And I think that we'll see that this year when he does come back. Antonio says he'll be back this year, but not the next. I think that's the common sentiment. He's going to come back and give it one more run. And I kind of think that's how it's going to be. So we'll see. We'll see as the time passes here, and I'm sure this offseason will go by quicker than you think. It did last year. And I think Kelce will have some type of decision or come out and publicly have some type of decision to tell everybody, here soon, sooner than later. And we'll see what he has to say about it. I'm sure he'll say something about it on his podcast on New Heights or something. But it'll be news. You'll see it everywhere. Once he makes his decision, it'll be everywhere. And we'll talk about it then. Julia says, after all Travis has done, he can stay for as long as he wants to. You don't have to shove a Hall of Famer out the door. I agree, Julia. I think that he's earned his spot in KC to be here as long as he wants to be. I do think after what we saw last season, I think him taking a lesser role of some sort, him not getting the snap count that he normally gets, them restructuring the contract or not paying him as much, I think he can stay around as long as he wants, but I think that on his end, he has to realize that this team just can't stop because he wants to continue to play football. If he's not the best option, then I think they move forward. I mean, he can be around, but at what cost? So, and I don't think that'll be a problem. I think Travis Kelce knows that, and I think he understands all of that, so I don't think it'll be anything weird. I think he'll probably do one more year and then hit the bricks. But look, I would love to see him go out on a high note. Antonio also says he'll play a lesser role, and we'll use him to draw a double team on certain plays. So that's the thing I saw this year. Travis Kelce was a giant decoy this season, right? I mean, for the most part, that's really the most we got out of him was just being a decoy. Teams were focusing in on not letting Travis Kelce beat them, double team the hell out of him, beating him up every game. But at what point does that kind of slack off, Like, he's 30, like I said, he's going to be 36 years old. He's 35, going to be 36. He didn't have the greatest season last year. At what point do teams not have to double team him anymore? And when does he become not even a decoy for you on the field? I think he still got that right now. I think he still demands that attention right now. Even at his age, I think he still demands that attention. And we saw it in, small doses last season. There were a few games where he just went off and looked like the old Travis Kelce. I mean, 100-yard games, multiple touchdown games. He did it, just not consistently last season. We're used to seeing it week in and week out with Travis Kelce. And, as he gets older and things change, that's not always going to be the case. So I think that's something we have to accept. Got my boy Bryant Williamson with the 2-bomb. Says the last dance. I'm down with that sickness. Let's go, baby. Hear ye. Hear ye. Let's do it, baby. He's got to do one more year. Come on, Kelce. One more, buddy. You can't go out like that. Ruben says he agrees a lesser role for Travis, not a focal point of the offense. I think that could benefit Travis too and help with the longevity of his career. The fact that he's had to be that guy every season. Like, he's never had to play second fiddle to anybody. He's never been able to take a step back and do less. It's always been the Travis Kelce show. It's been him and Mahomes, right? So I think the older he gets, the more he can slide back into that lesser role and be comfortable in it. And then that also helps him to perform better when he is on the field, not only just for obvious reasons that energy and things like that, but it's just how defense's game plan towards the Chiefs. And if Kelsey's in a smaller role, then that's not going to be the focal point all week at practice. Like, hey, we got to double team Travis Kelce. I mean, if he's in a smaller role, then that'll give him opportunities to make bigger splash plays and to, help the team in different ways than we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing them pepper Travis Kelce and him getting a bunch of receptions and just having monster games. And we might have to look at it through a different perspective. And all of a sudden, Travis Kelce's a guy that's just going to have a few receptions a game, but maybe he can get 20, 30 yards out of those, get some yak, even though he's getting old and slow. Even though he's getting old and slow, he could still do it. I have faith in him. I think everybody else does too, but definitely want to see him back for one more year. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Travis Kelce thing. I think he will come back and play at least one more year. And I do think that when we do see him, it'll be a different Travis Kelce than we saw last season. So as far as that goes, I'm good with it. I think he'll be back for one more year. I think he'll put in a lot more effort. And it's hard for me to say he didn't put in effort because we don't know that. But just from the outside looking in, the way he played in the Super Bowl, the way he looked on the sidelines all year, it kind of seems like he was, in another place mentally. But maybe not. But I do think we'll see a different Travis Kelce this year, much more focused, leading the team, more vocal, and look like he's more into it than just sitting on the sideline spaced out every time. But don't let the media fool you. That's when they like to get the cameras over there on him. So it wasn't necessarily like that all season, but they definitely caught each time that it was and made it a thing. And they'll continue to try to do that next season, but I don't think Travis Kelce will let him win this time. I think he'll definitely be focused a lot more than last season. And that's a good thing, man. And just having Travis Kelce in-house, too, to help with some of these young wide receivers. We've seen what it's been able to do for Noah Gray. Noah Gray, they actually utilized him quite a bit at the beginning of last season. He looked fantastic. And we've seen it in, little glimpses throughout his career. Noah Gray is good. Like, he could definitely be a weapon for this offense. Him and Mahomes, they could have something there. And I think that comes from being in behind Travis Kelce for all these years and learning from him and picking his brain and just, kind of just watching how he handles himself on the football field. I think a lot of that is rubbed off on Noah Gray. And if we get Travis Kelce back for another year, that's another year that Jared Wiley gets to see it. That's also if they were to go out and draft another tight end or if they were to go get a free agent tight end, they get that time with Travis Kelce. And I think that's invaluable. Just much like Xavier Worthy benefited so much from DeAndre Hopkins coming to Kansas City. He really did. I think he was smart. It was a young guy. He saw one of the greatest to ever do it, and he picked his brain. Even if he thought he was annoying him, he still did it, and it paid off because you saw Xavier Worthy progress big time after DeAndre Hopkins got to Kansas City. Because these older guys, these guys they've been around, man, they've done it. They've seen a thing or two. And if they're willing to help you out and mentor you and this and that, I think that's just something you have to do. So once again, Travis Kelce, one more year at least. And there's a lot of different reasons why. Appreciate you guys, by the way. Thanks for being here. It's just me for today. Mike will be back from vacation soon, and then we'll get back to normal. Be more goofy banter and stuff like that as opposed to just a little bit of a different thing. It's been a little boring this week. Sorry I'm not super entertaining by myself, but just trying to cover what I can cover and give us something to talk about. And I just want to come hang out with my friends, if that's okay. I've been a little bit lonely, so I figured I'd come hang out with my friends here. And you guys always make me feel better, Still suffering from that Super Bowl loss and things, and I like to come cope a little bit. But y'all, appreciate you being here, voting on the poll. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. It's got almost 170 people that voted on it. 73% said Travis Kelce ain't going nowhere. So that's just how it is. That's just how it is. And we'll see. Here's another little piece of news that people were talking about yesterday. And before I get to it, once again, do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't. It just takes a couple seconds to go hit that like button, and it helps out. Get this one out to more people and stuff like that. Here it is. Chiefs Blitz put out breaking news yesterday. The Chiefs president, Mark Donovan, is allegedly pushing for the team to move to the Legends in KCK. The main tractive land is on the northeast corner of I-435 and I-70 per KK Hasusus. Has issues. KK has issues. There we go. Yeah, so that's something everybody's going off about. And, of course, you see a little bit of both, right? More negative than positive. Most of it's people that are just like, I'm never going to cheer for the Chiefs again. Mark Donovan's an idiot. And, you know, me being from outside looking in, like I'm all the way over here in Kentucky looking at it. And to me, I have a couple different, I think a couple different things about it, but I'm not born and raised right there in Missouri. So I'm not going to feel that type of way. Like, to me, it is what it is. And I don't think anybody even close to there should be so entitled. I mean, you have the Kansas City Chiefs there. Oh, they're going to move 5 miles up the road or whatever. Like, no one, it's not that big of a deal. Would love to see them stay in Arrowhead. Arrowhead's iconic, right? But it is getting outdated. This team has earned themselves the best of the best. So if they were to have to redo Arrowhead, it's just going to be a lot of renovations and not a whole lot of change. And that's good for fans, and that's good for the look of it, but I mean, let's be real here. I think these guys do deserve something more up to date, something better, and I think that's what they're going to get. Of course, it's going to be a while. It'll be like 2030 or 2031 before you see any traction or any movement on that. But I think, I've kind of had that feeling since the beginning. The Chiefs are going to make the best business decision. I mean, ultimately, that's what this thing is. It's a business. And I think sometimes you have to put the feelings aside, and sometimes you have to be able to put things to bed, even if you're very emotionally attached. So if they move over to Legends and KCK, then so be it. It's still our Kansas City Chiefs. You're still going to love them the same, whether you say you are or not. You're not going to stop watching. It'll be all right. Got a 5-bomb from Buck and Bob. He says, I miss Mike too, but thank you for keeping content going. Chiefs content has went super dry. Absolutely, man. Yeah, doing these things by yourself. Some people like doing it that way. I'm just not used to doing it that way. So it's kind of like whatever. I don't mind to do it. You guys don't scare me or anything like that. It's always a good time to come talk and hang out about Chiefs football. And that's the thing about it. The people that are here right now, I mean, normally, we have 500 to 1,000 people in a live stream. There's 263 across 3 platforms right now. That's how down it is. 263 across 3 platforms, which is wild. And that just goes to show you that only the real ones are still in here. Only the real Chiefs fans are seriously interested about Chiefs football every day of the year. A lot of people take that offseason off. They'll come back. They'll be back way, way further away when the season's starting. But the real ones are still here literally weeks after the Super Bowl. Weeks after getting that ass spanked in the Super Bowl. You guys are here, and that just shows that you guys are the real ones. And we love Chiefs football. Eat, drink, and breathe it, right? So we're going to wake up. We're going to talk about it, even if they just lost the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago. A lot to look forward to, a lot to be happy about, a lot to be optimistic about. Appreciate the 5-bomb, Buck and Bob. I'm sure you guys are still doing your content as well. So everybody go check that out, by the way. Buck and Bob take on Chiefs Kingdom. Go check that podcast out. Appreciate the 5. And then we got Amy Casey with a 2. Says, Steve, you're doing a great job for the ACU family. Appreciate that. Doing the best I can. Trying to get some content in. Not a whole lot to talk about. Like Buck and Bob was saying, just content is dry. There's not a whole lot to talk about. A lot of people still in mourning. But, we have a lot to be optimistic about. We do. And sometimes change sucks, but sometimes it's exciting as well. And I think losing your 3rd straight Super Bowl, like, and that sounds weird. Okay. Losing the third Super Bowl of your 3 straight, it's disappointing because you didn't accomplish what you set out to do. You didn't make history per se, which you did by just getting to the Super Bowl. But you did make history by being the first team to three-peat and stuff like that. But nothing to scoff at what this team's been able to do. And last year, by all metrics, was a down year. Lost in a Super Bowl. A couple years ago, by all metrics, was a rebuild year. Won the Super Bowl. It's just crazy what this team's been able to accomplish. I think you're starting to see the page turn a little bit on this Chiefs team as we know and love it. I think it's going to start evolving. This is a little bit of a turning corner. Kind of joked around with that last episode when we talked about Patrick Mahomes cutting the hair, getting a little more clean cut, getting rid of that mohawk. It's a little bit symbolic. I know it's really not. It's not really a thing. I don't take that too seriously, but it is kind of symbolic, right? Like things are changing, things are getting different. It's not exactly what you've grown to know and love, but things change and things evolve, and that's what this Chiefs team has to do to keep being competitive. So I'm not mad at it. I mean, things are going to happen. Players are going to get older. Players are going to retire. This team's not going to be able to pay certain players. I mean, it'd be great to just keep the same team year in and year out, but that's not realistic. That's not realistic. And the fact that the Chiefs have had this unprecedented run in the free agency era where players just chase money is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. They've been able to play at this level and compete at this level and do the things that they've done over the last 7 or 8 years. And I think that there's a couple different reasons why, but mainly it's because of QB1, man. I mean, I love Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches to ever do it. But he hadn't hoisted a Lombardi up before Patrick Mahomes. We've had several opportunities to get to the game and just couldn't do it with Alex Smith. Could never win the playoffs. Pat changed that for everybody, and we still have him. And he's got a long career ahead of him. He's still in the GOAT conversation for you Brady homers and everybody else that thinks he's not. But just what he's been able to do throughout his first 7 or 8 years of football is unprecedented. Never seen it before. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback to ever play football up to this point in his career. There is no other QB in their first 7 or 8 years that's been able to do what Patrick Mahomes has done, not even close. And saying that he's out of the GOAT conversation is absolutely ridiculous. That's like acting like he just quit football, like he's not going to play anymore. He could quit right now. He'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Patrick Mahomes ain't going to quit, ladies and gentlemen. It's a competitive son of a bitch right there. He's going to be out there next year more fired up than ever. And he's still going to have his games where McClone shows up and his head's not there and he's just going crazy and looking like he doesn't know how to play football. But I almost guarantee you next year you're going to see more gunslinger Patrick Mahomes. You're going to see more Patrick Mahomes out there that looks more like he did a few years back. You're going to see more carefree play. You're going to see more backyard football. You're going to see a drive to get back and do this thing because it's got to be sick, man. He compared it, obviously, to the Tampa Bay Super Bowl, and that's 2 now. That's 2 that he's going to have keeping him up at night, and I think he'll going to come out and avenge that, not just for him, but for Chiefs Kingdom as well. So definitely excited to see what he's going to do next year. K. Wayne in the house. What's up, K. Wayne? He says you can't be one of the best head coaches in football and NFL history if you can't figure out a 2-high shell. That's the thing about it, is I feel like the formula to beating that defense is pretty simple. And I think Andy Reid knows how to do it. It's just like, is he disciplined enough to do a game plan to beat it? And I think the answer to that is not always. And we saw it in the Super Bowl. I mean, Andy Reid's one of the most brilliant offensive minds ever in the NFL. Like, no doubt. He changed the game of football. He changed how offenses run. But he was too stubborn and just arrogant. I don't know what the word would be. But when you know how to beat certain defenses, or you know that you got a good pass rush and your offensive line's kind of patched up, you know how to counteract that. It's not rocket science. You know what you got to do, and he just didn't even do it. So it's crazy. It's like, it's not. The question to me is, isn't Andy Reid isn't one of the best to ever do it? Because I think he is. But sometimes he's not very disciplined. He wants to go back to certain things at the wrong times and stuff like that. And I don't understand it. I don't get it. But yeah, 3 things to beat a two high shell with a 4-man rush, quick slant screens, run the ball, and he did none of those. It's easy. It's very easy. It also, Patrick. It's also discipline on Patrick too, not trying to take too much, not trying to press. Take what the defense is giving you, and we saw him not doing that. So it's kind of, as much as it was a coaching failure, Patrick had one of the worst games he's ever played. So that's just all there is to it. A lot of things went wrong for the Chiefs to lose like that in the Super Bowl. Bad day to have a bad day. That's all there is to it. Sam says stubborn, egocentric. I don't really think Andy's got a big ego. I think he is stubborn. Sometimes he outsmarts himself. Sometimes he thinks too much into things and doesn't take the obvious game plan. We've seen it over the years. It's not the first time. Buck and Bob with another 2-bomb. Appreciate you, man. Says Andy only runs when he has top end running back. Well, honestly, even if he did, I don't even know how much he'd use them. A lot of people want to see Chiefs get an explosive running back just to see how the team could be. Apparently, Mahomes has never had one. I would kind of argue that. I think we saw what the Chiefs could be like with a very, very good running back when Kareem Hunt was first drafted. That offense was good. Offense was really good. And they utilized them more. Now, what do they do to do that? Like, that's the thing. We have Kareem Hunt now, but of course he's older. He's not exactly what he was when he started. Love Isaiah Pacheco. Explosive. But he doesn't have the best field vision. He doesn't have the patience. He doesn't have the experience. And he's coming off an injury. So it's like, what do you do there? What can you do? I mean, the only back in college football right now I think is going to come in and like maybe go crazy would be Ashton Genty. And he's going to go in the first round. So what do you do there? You trading up to take a running back? Because I'm pretty sure all y'all's heads would explode if it did. And if they did do that, would it be crazy? I mean, I personally think so. But, I mean, who knows? Who knows how that would turn out? Obviously, I think the focal point is going to be the offensive line. We'll see how that goes. Could be another one of those things where what can you really do about it? Because you kind of put yourself in this position. I don't think there's any guys in the draft so far, and I haven't got to dig in all the way, but I did watch some offensive line tape. Because obviously that's where you want to start at, but I don't know. There's no one that's really like jumping off the tape to me like, hey, this guy's worth getting up in the first round and taking. And then, of course, free agency, you got Ronnie Stanley and Larry Jackson. I mean, don't have like a whole lot out there. They're not in a great spot, but we'll see what they decide to do with it. They definitely need to figure some things out there and invest a little bit. They've been investing in offensive line. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people act like they've ignored offensive line. That's not the case. They've ignored left tackle. Kind of ignored left tackle to the point where it wasn't like they ignored it completely, because they did try to draft some guys and use them over there. They weren't drafting the right guys. They weren't taking that position as seriously as it should have been. But they've heavily invested in the offensive line. If you go back and look at other drafts, I mean, a lot of guys taken there. And then they also signed Jawan Taylor. They signed Orlando Brown. A couple other things that they've done. It's just not the right move yet. Not the right move yet. Hopefully they can figure it out this offseason. That'd be great. I think Patrick deserves to have his blind side covered. I mean, honestly. And God knows he plays much better when he's comfortable. Josh Denbauer says, I want an elite pass blocking running back. I think we've definitely felt the absence of one of those. Like, I was never one of those people that were just over the moon about Jerick McKinnon. Like, I thought he was a great player, and I thought he was really good at the things that they asked him to do. course, other people made him out to be like a Hall of Famer as a Chief or something, but that wasn't me. But I think we do miss having that type of pass protection from the running back. There were a lot of times where Pacheco missed pass blocks in the Super Bowl. We've seen it throughout the year. Kareem Hunt, he does a decent job. Not great, but and then P. Ryan, he's kind of hit or miss as well. I feel like we've missed Jerick McKinnon a little bit. I think it's more from the protection than anything. So, kind of agree with that. Let's see here. Bucket Bob says you can see a huge difference in Travis if you watch the Eagles and the Chiefs Super Bowl from 2 years ago. I'm glad you brought that up because I actually I've not gone back and watched the entire blowout loss. I have not done that. But I've seen clips here and there. But I have gone back and watched the other Super Bowl, and you can see a huge difference. And is it mental? Is it physical? Is it a little bit of both? Absolutely. But it's definitely a different Travis Kelce than we were used to seeing. That's for sure. Gap Mage says, I'd argue DK isn't a number one receiver. He's gone over 1,000 3 times in his career. He's mouthy and lazy. Depending on how you see it. I think there's definitely some character concerns, but I don't think he's like over the top. I don't think he's like a George Pickens or anything like that, but I think there's definitely some concerns. I would definitely consider him a number one. I do think he is that. He's also been playing with Geno Smith. I mean, he's not had the greatest quarterbacks. Now, he does have another good wide receiver on the team that helps with Lockett, but, I mean, really, DK is kind of the focal point of that offense, right? It's like, let's just pay attention to him. Let's just pay attention to him. So, I mean, he's got a tough job to do. I've seen effort plays from DK Metcalf, and I've seen him have some passion, so I do think those are some qualities that could come out and Andy could get out of him. It's just how would we even utilize them? Like I was saying earlier, and Mike likes to point out all the time, is we don't use those type of receivers in this offense. We never do. So would it just be kind of a waste? Roulette King says, I'm late, but can you reiterate the thumbnail, Steve? Thanks. Better late than never, my man. Appreciate you being here. Just to reiterate a little bit, Travis Kelce, all signs are indicating that he is going to be back next season, that he wants to come back. And that was from Diana Rossini. There was a report she put out. And nothing official yet. Nothing official yet, but I think it'll be coming soon. And I do think he'll be back for another year. I think he'll be back for another year. And I do think that these boys are going to go on a revenge tour. Like, you know, Patrick Mahomes, first of all, didn't have had his worst year as a pro, probably his worst game as a pro in the Super Bowl. Travis Kelce went out on a bad note, sour note. I don't think that's how you want to go out. And not only just Travis Kelce go out that way, but that's the greatest duo in NFL history. I don't care what Brady homers and Gronk homers say. I don't care what anybody says. That's the greatest duo in NFL history. You want to go out with a bang. You want to go out with a splash. You don't want to go out like that. So I think we'll see him back. Be a bit of a revenge tour. That's what Charles Omenihu thinks. That's another thing. Roulette King probably missed that, but Charles Omenihu told Kay Adams that Patrick Mahomes is going to be on a revenge tour next year. He fully expects him to come out and go scorched earth on everybody. Got a 10 bomb from Corey. Appreciate you, brother. He says, appreciate all the Chiefs content. Thank you. Absolutely, man. Appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the donos and stuff like that. Yeah, there's not like a ton of Chiefs news. There's not a whole lot going on. I mean, we're literally just getting started into the offseason. Everybody's still recovering from that Super Bowl beatdown. But we're all Chiefs fans here, and I feel like that's just what we do. That's what we do. And there might not be a ton of us, but there's enough of us to still put out content. So we're going to continue to do that. And I appreciate you guys consuming it. Just do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't. That'll help us out. And, of course, this coming week, we'll have Mike back from vacation. We'll get more into some content. We'll get back to a full slate of content. We'll try to get some videos out, some shorts, Obviously, the live streams. We got a members only. We got to get wrapped up before this month is over. Probably try to give something fun away. Don't know what yet, but just keep a lookout for that. If you're not a member of the ACU crew, you're not a member of this channel, you can change that. Just go to join.allchiefedup.com and sign up. We're definitely going to be leaning into more members only content. Kind of coming up with an idea for different videos that are members only. Try to do more than one members only live stream a month. Just kind of lean into that and try to build that thing up. So if you'd like to join, you can definitely go do that at join.allchiefedup.com. Also, if you'd like to support the channel with some merchandise, you can rock a good t-shirt or a hoodie or whatever you want. There's probably one in the chat up at the top right now. But you can go to merch.allchiefedup.com and get yourself some gear over there. Got a 10 bomb from Nate. He says, I feel like if a great tight end is available late in round 1, we need to jump. Let's be honest, the only really good left tackle in this draft is the LSU guy, and we're not getting him. I agree, Nate. I don't think tackling left tackle in this draft is going to be a thing. I think if they try to get somebody, it could be much like what we've seen the last couple of years, where they get one in the 2nd round, 3rd round, and then he's not going to pan out at left tackle. Like, we could see that happen again if that's really what they focus on. I think they really have to consider grabbing one of these guys, whether it be Stanley, Jackson. I forget the other guy's name. K. Wayne mentioned him the other day from the Rams. What's that guy's name? Cam Robinson. I think, did I say Rams? I didn't mean the Rams. But either way, Cam Robinson, he's the Vikings, I think. Those guys, those are the ones that you're really going to have to focus on. Those are the proven ones. Those are the ones that you might be able to get the type of play you want to get out of a left tackle. I don't think you could go out and take a shot on another 2nd, 3rd round guy coming out of college and just hoping that he translates. I don't think that's the route to go. I think you go get one of these proven guys. And granted, they're not elite, but they're better than what we have. So, appreciate that 10 bomb, by the way, brother. Y'all put some legendaries in the chat for everybody that's donated today. Put some catch-ups in there for them. Whatever you want to do, you go for it. Give them some love. Thanks, everybody, for being here today, by the way. Thanks for putting up with me all week. Do me a favor, hit that like button on the way out if you haven't already. Shout out BetUS for powering the live stream. They've been doing us well all season long, so shout out to them. Also, just keep an eye out for content. It's coming. I'm getting ready to dive into this draft stuff. Free agency's going to heat up. We'll see a lot of stuff going down probably here soon. And so you might as well get your rest in while you can, but get ready for it because it's going to get fun quick. Can't wait to jump into this off-season stuff, honestly. It's like, normally I want like a break between the seasons. It's like, let's give me a minute. This year, I think we're a little fired up. It's like after seeing that Super Bowl outcome, it's like, you know what? Let's get to it. I'm tired of these Eagles fans already. Appreciate you guys. See you next time. Go Chiefs.
Heaven was a sight from my soul.